Hi, my name is Julian Galan. I'll be demonstrating the use of the UNC12 probe. I'll be going over the parts, how to read each line, the grasp, the pressure, how to use it, the working order, the angles on how to use it in the mouse. I'm gonna go over the indication and the contraindications for this instrument, and I'll be showing you a detailed description on how to use it, showing the walking stroke and the working order. First, I'm gonna start showing you the parts of this instrument. This is gonna be the handle, the blue part. This is the shank. In this picture, this will be the shank, and this will be the working end. Each line represents 1 millimeter. It has 12 lines, and it's a 12 millimeter instrument. You insert the instrument in the space between the tooth and the free gingiva, and you'll be measuring the pocket depth. The way you read the instrument is if the gingiva is in between the two lines, you go to the highest line, to the nearest line, and that's your reading. This instrument starts at 1 millimeter. Each line is 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters. The bottom of this black square is 4 millimeters. The top is 5 millimeters, 6, 7, 8. The bottom of this one is 9 millimeters, 10 millimeters, 11 millimeters, and then the highest line is 12 millimeters. Second, I'll be going over how to grasp this instrument. You'll be holding the handle with your thumb and your index finger in a C-shape motion, like this. You'll be using your middle finger resting on the shank, and then you'll be using your ring finger as a fulcrum, and your pinky, you can hide it away. The way you use this instrument, you get a fulcrum, and then you always point the tip towards the apex of the root of the tooth. You angle it away from the tooth to insert, and then you do the walking motion. The pressure you use with this instrument, when it's on a live patient, you'll see like a blanching on the gums. Same way, like if you do it on your fingernail, you'll see like a blanching. That's how you know you reached the junctional epithelium. Now I'll be showing you the working order for this instrument. When you're working with this instrument, you're gonna start on number 1. This model is missing on the third molar, but you'll start on number 1. You go all the way around on the buccal side to number 16. And then you go from 16 palate all the way in the palate inside to number 1. Then you'll go down to number 32 on the buccal side. You'll probe around the buccal all the way to number 17, and then from 17 you go on the lingual side and you probe from 17 lingual all the way down to 32 lingual. There are 6 parts to each tooth. They'll have the distal side, the buccal side, the mesial side. In the palate, you'll have the mesial, palatal, the palate, and then the distal on the palate side. Same thing in the front, distal, facial, mesial. And then in the palate, you'll have the same thing. You have mesial, palate, and then a distal. When you're taking measurements on the buccal or the palate, you'll go from line angle to line angle, and you'll do the walking stroke, and you'll record the deepest measurement that you get. So if you're going from the distal line angle to the mesial line angle and you have like a 3, 2, 2, your number to record will be a 3. That's the deepest pocket depth that you have for that for the buccal side. Some angles to consider when you're probing is always point the tip of the probe towards the apex of the root of the tooth. Always probe towards the root. And then when you're going on the interproximal spaces, you have to add a 10 to 15 degree angulation in order to get that to that cold space. If we're gonna start doing a probing on this patient, We start at the distal line angle. Make sure you angulate the probe away from the tooth so you can get into the sulcus of the tooth. So once you get into the sulcus, just walk the probe distally at the 10 to 15 degrees until you get to the cold space and get your recording number, the pocket depth. Then you can take your probe out, go back to the distal line angle, and then walk mesially. Don't forget to angulate the probe, always pointing towards the apex of the tooth. From distal line angle to mesial line angle, and record the deepest reading. And then once you're at the mesial line angle, at the 10 to 15 degrees, so you can reach into the cold space and get that number. So you'll have one number for the distal, the deepest reading for the buccal, and then the deepest one reading for the mesial. Lastly, I'll be going over some indications and contraindications for the use of this instrument. You want to use this instrument to measure anything. You can measure the pocket depth, so you can go all the way down to the junctional epithelium. You can measure recession with this instrument. You can also use it to measure any lesions inside the mouth. Some situations where you don't want to use this instrument is if you notice that the tooth is compromised or it's in distress, or if the patient recently had like an oral surgery or like a tooth extracted. You don't want to probe the tooth adjacent to that extraction because you might cause more harm. Also, if you notice that there's like an active bleeding, you might not be able to get an accurate measurement. So it's not a good idea if the patient has the gingiva is inflamed and is actively bleeding. You don't want to go probing because the numbers that you're getting are not accurate. This concludes the demonstration on how to use the UNC12 probe. Hope you understood the parts of this instrument, how to read each line, how to grasp the instrument and the pressure needed to get the right measurements, the working order, how you use the instrument, the angles needed for the 6 parts. When you go into the distal and the mesial line angles, make sure you add those 10 to 15 degrees to reach into the cold space. Some of the indications and contraindications on when not to use this instrument, and description of how to do the walking stroke so you don't injure the patient.